Hello everyone, welcome back to my vRealize series. In previous video we learned how to make composite blueprint, which includes application stack. In this video we will demonstrate the ability to use vRealize XaaS functionality to rapidly add custom services to the catalog. In our case we will enable self-service provisioning of user object in Active Directory. We will use a vRealize orchestrator instance that has already been configured with an Active Directory endpoint and leverage this plugin to walk through the process of creating an Active Directory user object, which you can then manage from with vRealize automation. Log into VRA as a cloud admin. Navigate to Design and Access and add new custom resources. In this case we will create an Active Directory user account that you want to manage. To do this we need to first create custom resources so that vRealize automation will understand the type of the object that is being created and be able to pass that information to management workflow in vRealize orchestrator. So in the object types, start typing AD. This will populate the drop down with a list of matching object type pulled from the vRealize orchestrator. Select AD user, enter the version. I will use 100. The resource details form allows you to add and rearrange fields that will appear when you click on the details of the managed item. Additionally, those fields can be used to influence resource actions. Take note of the is enabled field present for this object type. We will use the status of this attribute on the provisioned user accounts to create state-aware resource action in the next phase. We don't need to make any edits on this form, so simple press finish. So Active Directory user custom resource was created now. Let's navigate to XaaS blueprint and start create one. Now when vRealize automation understands the output that the vRealize orchestrator workflow will be creating, we are ready to create an XaaS blueprint. First step is choice vRealize orchestrator workflow we will use. Take a look at output parameters. Type is Active Directory user. Let's complete blueprint details. I will rename this to create AD user. And I will insert my version 100. This page default name and the form fields labels were generated from the presentation layer of the underlying workflow, but you can customize as you need. So click the select all field. I will set type to tree and will apply this. This will allow the requester to select organization unit from hierarchical tree, which is a similar interface to the Active Directory users and computers console. Scroll down to cost center. Now we will go to edit the cost center field and link its select table values to an existing data source. This powerful feature in vRealize automation allows you to easier create dynamic forms. In this use case we are going to tie the field to SQL lookup of the database table that contains a list of corp's cost codes. Change the type fields to drop down and from the values tab add external values. In our case we will use vRealize orchestrator script action cost code db lookup. and apply these changes. Since we are only creating user accounts in a single domain, there is no need to prompt the user for this information. We will need to put some data constraints on the domain name field so that the domain information is locked at the default value but still visible. From the Details tab, for default value, select Constant. That will be constant default value, not dependent on other field entries or conditions. So add corp.local in text box. From the Constraints tab, for read-only field, select Constant and select Yes, then apply this. Goes to Next to associate provisioned resources type. On the provisioned resources screen, we will need to tell vRealize automation that when the vRealize orchestrator workflow is completed, you want to take the workflow output object and map it to new user item of the type new user Active Directory user, which we defined previously. This allows to tenant to manage the item in vRealize automation once the workflow is completed. So select new user AD user and click the finish. This blueprint is ready to publish. Now it's time to create resources action with XaaS. Resource actions are management operations that can be completed against provisioned item in vRealize automation. If we are talking about virtual machines, the typical resources action are power on, power off, reconfigure, destroy, and etc. Many typical VMs focused resource action are provided out of the box, but custom object type created with XaaS do not have resource action defined by default. There are good reasons for creating your own custom day 2 activities, whether extending native functionality or simplifying management of service for your users. In this video, we already built a new service to create an Active Directory user account. Now we will create few new resources action that can be performed against those management Active Directory object. Common resource actions for Active Directory user resource type may be disable account, enable account, and delete user account. It makes sense that some actions should be only available during certain state of the managed object. For instances, disable should be only option if the account currently enabled and vice versa. Select vRealize orchestrator workflow for destroy a user account. Input parameter user are mapped to resource type AD user. I will keep name and description, so be aware that name and description will be visible for end user. Hide catalog request information page controls whether the default request form includes the page that required input of the description and reason for request. Type disposal provisioning tell vRA whether this resource action will be result in disposal of an existing management object or provisioning of new management object. The target criteria allows the service designer to dictate whether this resource action is always available or only during certain condition. Go to Next to configure destroy account form. This screen is where you model the form that end user will be presented with when requesting the destroy account resource action. You can move the fields around and the new fields from the toolbar on the left and customize label and data constraints. So let's add some useful information to the blank form. First, add section header and enter the text for end user. Click Submit to destroy the following Active Directory user account. Next, add text field. This text field will display the name of the account you are requesting to destroy. The ID value is not critical for the resource action we are building, but it would be if the field was providing an input variable back to our vRealize orchestrator workflow. When mapping form fields to input variables, the ID must identically match the workflow input variable name. In this resource action, the VRO workflow doesn't require any input other than the object itself. But an ID is required for every form field, so we will define something that makes sense. I think user account is okay. Set ID to user account. For the label, I will insert simple account and submit. We need to edit account text field. We will need to lock the default value of the field to the account name attribute of the managed object. So field value will be account name. On the constraint tab, let's set the account field to read-only, so it appears more as notification field and not as field that may require user input or something. Let's finish, then publish destroy account resources action and add an additional resources action. This action will utilize a disable user workflow. I will rename this to disable account. On the target criteria, I will select available based on condition. We will want to set this criteria for action to only be available when the account is enabled. Select equivals for operators field. Select constant and type is true. In the blank forms page, I will add the section header with the text click submit to disable the following Active Directory user account. We need a text field to this form. All other inputs are the same as we done in previously action creation. Publish this and go to create new one. I will rename this to enable account. Already set up are same as we already done in previously resource action creation. Go to publish enable account resource action. Now it's time to configure the catalog and entitlements for new created blueprints. Choose an appropriate image. I already have one. Add the service. And the update entitlements for the new resource account. And the select destroy account, disable accounts and enable accounts action. Finish to commit the change and log into vRealize as dev user. Go to the catalog and request AD user catalog item. I will put some description and the reasons. Let's select an organization unit in Active Directory. I already have created one, which calls dev users. I will make an account with my name. Data in cost center field has been automatically populated by our external script action, so just select SVC account. When the process has finished successful, open Active Directory users and computers and find the new created account. As the new created account, take a look on these details. Go back to vRealize automation and select this new created object. From the action menu, select disable account. Back to Active Directory users and computers. As you can see, account is disabled. Now you can understand how vRealize automation access functionality can help organization rapidly extend the out-of-the-box provisioning and functionality through the vRealize orchestrator workflow. And that was all for this video. In our next video session we will cover advanced content authoring using XaaS and Puppet. Thanks for watching.